Sup, my friends? I'm hoping that a lot of technical issues don't happen this time like they did last time. So far, so good. I think you can hear me. I can't hear you, but I never can, so I guess that's fine as well. Let's go to FL Studio. There we go. Here we are, just like that. Got lots of room for other songs. If you know anybody that is a producer and would like a second set of ears, you should let them know that they can send in a track. I also, if my arm was gone, I look like I just kind of like a floating head. All right, let's have a listen. Aiden is up first. God's creation. Interesting. Going in a very religious manner. This is a new direction for Aiden. Let's close my email so that we don't get that sound. All right, let's have a listen.
You know who it is? T-Boy, Aiden Dodge, catching another rap cypher. Let's get it.
Yeah, every season I make waves in the industry, I'm never leaving. Cause I believe God brought me in this world for one reason, to make the meaning of my words deepen. Fast forward 10 years in the future, and they will seep in the brains, and people will know my pain. And I will have made it past the last train. 5 years into fame, everyone will know my name. The rap career is my game, and no, that will never change. Yeah, that will stay the same. You see people like Drake, give fame to someone who deserves it. Give it to Aiden Dodge, I promise it'll be worth it. The last train is yet to make it to the last station, and I won't be the Michael Jackson of the next generation. I'll be the Kendrick Lamar, if I make it that far. Working hard and taking shots to be a big star. And if you don't believe in me right now, just wait until your children start blasting my music out loud on SoundCloud, Spotify, or whatever you have. How much longer till that happens? I'll let you do the math. Either way, I'm not gonna let you invade my past. The thing that God has in store for you is kissing my ass. You underestimate the guy with autism. I may have speech delay, but I still stick to the rhythm. For way too long I've played victim, but this time I'll be the one to end the exorcism. God brought me to this world for a very good reason, to put me in a career that I'm never leaving.
Yeah, okay. It's an interesting direction for Aiden. Because I've never heard any sort of religious I'm not saying that you're not religious or that you are religious. It's a different direction, and that's fine. What do I think? I think that the lyrics are pretty good. I think the flow is still a little awkward in places. I feel like
Fast forward 10 years in the future, and they will fast forward 10 years in the future, and they
like it's just the flow that I still, I think that's what you should work on, is the flow. The vocals are kind of like, they kind of have like some resonant peaks in them.
fast forward 10 years in the future, and they will seep in the brains, and people will know my pain. And I will have made it past the last train. 5 years into fame, everyone will know.
I cannot read that without hearing Tenacious D. That's funny.
Just wait until your children start blasting my music out loud. Just wait until your children start blasting my music.
See, like for example, and I don't know if it's helpful for me to point out like the individual things that are breaking up the flow, at least for me, is the
Just wait until your children start blasting my music.
just wait until your children start blasting it, like just wait until it's just like there's either not enough syllables or too many syllables, and it just kind of feels like you're taking uh uh where's string, there it is. Okay, it's kind of like this, and this might not make any sense at all. I don't think I'm going to be able to demonstrate this in Paint, but I'm certainly going to try. Okay. I still have no idea how I'm going to demonstrate this in Paint, and I'm about to try. So these are kind of like, to me, these are like the places where the rhythm where the flow should fall into. These are like the possible spots. And again, I'm not a rapper. Take that with a grain of salt. But this is like the bar going across, and this is like where the syllables can land and whatnot. And it kind of feels like how could I do this? I have no idea how to do this. Like these are the syllables, and it's almost like you're like, okay, this one can go here, and then I guess this one can go here, and these kind of fit here. I got two here, so I could either put them both like really close to each other, or like maybe I should put that one here and then like cram these two together. Like it kind of just sounds like they don't fall into the spots. Like I don't know how to explain this. This is terrible. I don't know what the fuck this is supposed to be. I'm gonna leave it though. Anyway, the flow is the biggest thing. I think it's I think like you're getting better, so that's good. But it's still I don't know if you can feel it when you're like rapping and you're like da 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 da, like you're trying to like fit things where they don't really fit. And I think that might come down to the writing aspect of it as well, because if you wrote maybe there's like too many syllables and you need to simplify that to a shorter word so that you're not trying to cram them all in. Or maybe there's not enough syllables and you're trying to stretch them out to fit the space that you have for them. And I don't know, maybe I don't know. I'm not good at rapping or writing rap, so I can't really give very much feedback. Now, what I was talking about, the resonant peaks in the vocals, it's mostly like the fundamental. I think you might have been a little close to the mic or something.
It's the last train. Everyone will know my name. The rap career is my game, and no, that will never change. Yeah, that will stay the same. You see people like Drake.
Katia wrote a rap once. Anyway, I think that I don't think there's a consistent rhythm in the vocals, and it should have some consistency. That's a good point too. Yeah, like da 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 da. I think that there kind of is. There's a da 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 da.
Every season, I make waves in the industry. I'm never leaving, 'cause I believe God brought me in this world for one reason.
It keeps changing up and throwing us off. Yeah, that's a good point, Cody. I agree with that. The other thing I'll say is if you aren't, it's kind of tough because when you write a rap, you want to be like confident and boisterous, if that's a word. I don't even know if that's a boisterous. I understand you want to like come across as like confident, but like
every season I make waves in the industry. I'm never.
I don't know. I mean, like, are you making waves in the industry? I'm not saying you're not, but I'm also saying that maybe I don't know. I just find it hard to like believe that specific line.
To fame, everyone will know my name. The rap career is my game, and
so like everyone will know my name. Sure, I can get behind that because it's like, hey, I'm not like crazy big, but I will be. Like that's like your plan. Like that comes from a place of authenticity. And I think that finding a way to be authentic without kind of overextending, like I don't think I've even made a wave in the industry, and I've been doing it for like 2 decades. I've been doing it for about 12 or 13 years as a full-time career. So I wouldn't even necessarily think that I have made a fucking ripple in the grand scheme of things, right? I will make waves. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of balancing a fine line because, you want to be confident and you want to, but at the same time, you kind of have to, it has to be rooted in something that's believable. So if you're not crazy popular yet, maybe you should write from that place, write from a place where you have hopes and dreams and you're putting in the work. There's all kinds of great things that you can still create songs about, but without kind of overextending or over representing where you are in the industry, I think is a good note. In terms of the song structure, it's like you got like one big long verse and then like a chorus at the end. I kind of think that the track just kind of lingers and loiters for a while. Like we get, like quite a bit. I would probably like break it up and have like a chorus. a little sooner maybe, but to me, I feel like you're just kind of like, you're like feeling this one out. So I think you are getting better at rapping. I still prefer when you produce and sing. That's my personal preference when it comes to Aiden Dodge's creations. But hey, we're not talking about Aiden Dodge's creations. We're talking about God's creation, which apparently is this song. Do you think that this could win a rap cipher? I don't know what that means, but I'm going to say probably not. Win. I think I don't know what a cipher is. A competition. I think you gotta work on your flow. I don't like the lyrics are whatever. The lyrics are fine. The flow is what gives it the clunkiness. And that's the biggest thing. It's just the flow. To win rights to this beat. Oh, that's an interesting. Why don't you just make your own beat? That could be like, that's something that you could do. Like if you could get better at the flow, work at it, try to figure out exactly, analyze your recordings, figure out where you're lacking in the flow department. Now you can make beats and rap on top of them. And that's pretty cool. That would set you aside from a lot of other rappers that have to go get produced by Tap Daddy. They have to get beats by whatever. I'd be disqualified. Yeah, well, it's just, I don't think winning this competition is going to do anything for you except give you rights to this beat. And if you love the beat, then that's great. But you can also make beats. So make beats. I don't know. Again, flow needs to be better. I would work on your production and singing if I were you. That's my advice for you. But I know that you really enjoy rapping. So you should keep trying to get better at rapping. And these are just my thoughts. Okay, I don't know if any of that made any sense or helped at all, but I tried. Okay, let's move on to Cat Attack P Solemn. Let's do this. Okay, let's have a listen. So, yes, it can be a bit tricky to critique a track like this. But I do have some ideas. I think it's beautiful. It's a great atmosphere. I think the biggest thing is, well, there's two things. First of all, like just get rid of this headroom. You might as well. Why not? You know? The second thing is there's a really nice chord progression happening, and it's very vague. It's very kind of ethereal and out there, but it's there. And if you had like a sub bass that was just playing the roots of those notes, and maybe it's like a really slow kind of rotating Reese sound, and it was moving with the chord progression, I'd be like, I'm all in. Like at that point, I'd go into a sensory deprivation tank. I'd probably take some sort of, I don't know, psychedelic drug. I would find God. I'd maybe touch God. I don't even know what that means. Can you even touch God? I don't know, but I would go into a sensory deprivation tank, and all it needs, I'm so close to this. All it needs is a sub bass, and I'm there. I'm calling up Joe Rogan and I'm asking where the tank's at, you know? Anyway, that's it. I think it's beautiful. And I think that with a some sort of low sub bass really moving with the chord progression, I'm out there touching God. That's it. It's a beautiful track as always, Kat. Thank you for submitting. And make it louder and add a sub bass. The end. Cool. Let's move on. Holy shit. I think we have a large contrast with this track. Let's have a listen to Pip Bucks and Pipe Bombs. Pip Bucks and Pipe Bombs by Inmate, I'm assuming.
Maybe we ought to load the gun now to be sure, huh?
Okay, so obviously, when you render an MP3, render it out as a 320. I think I have a few issues with this. So far, the theme or the motif is a bit vague, and this is the second time I've used the word vague in the past 5 minutes. I need to work on my vocabulary, I'm aware. The theme or the melody is just kind of like dum 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 dum. It's just kind of going. There's no phrasing to speak of. Like if we listen, I guess there is like a phrase there, dun 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 dun, dun, but So I guess what I should say is the melody, there's a phrase there. I don't love the melody. I don't love the melody. It doesn't really, it sounds like anxiety without any sort of relief at any point. Like it's kind of keeping me on my toes the whole time, but I don't feel like it's ever resolved or anything. It's just kind of like dancing around. It could be a personal preference thing. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the arpeggiated melody. Now, when it gets to the drop, there's so many elements on top of each other. We've got like these crazy wubs just wubbing out, you know, and then you also still have like some orchestral stuff underneath. But there's too much stuff. There's just too much stuff on top of each other, and I don't know what to listen to. It just kind of sounds like a wall of noise. So I would simplify the drop. You know, when it comes to the melody, whatever. If you love that melody and you love the kind of anxious, dangerous vibe that it's given, then I'll go fuck myself. It's fine. But when it comes to the drop, I think it's kind of objectively messy. It's not really a matter of opinion. There's just too much stuff happening. And you really need to give each element its own place to shine, or its own time to shine. Maybe, you know, you have wab, wub, wub, dun, 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 wow, wub, wub. Like you make space for each individual element, because when you have so many loud, I'm going to use the same word as I did earlier, boisterous, all on top of each other, all of a sudden my ears are just like, what do I listen to, Nick? What's going on? You also have this very clear sub bass, which is very loud compared to the rest of the track. The rest of the track, at least frequency wise, is fairly well balanced, but the sub bass is just like way louder than everything else. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But I think the biggest thing with this so far is that you just have too much stuff all at the same time. See, again, there's like the strings underneath, but they're barely audible. And kind of a trick that I do sometimes when I used to make music is if I had like this crazy loud drop section, I would mute things. And if I say you mute those strings, if it doesn't really sound like it took anything away from the track, they shouldn't be there because they're just contributing to the noise floor. Another thing I would say is you should take all your wub sounds. Some of them are much louder than others. So maybe take your wub sounds, put them all into a bus, and then compress that bus together, put some distortion on it, something like that. No, it's not too late to drop a submission. Just go to my Discord and you'll see the thread there. Anyway, yeah, there's the wubs. I like to compartmentalize my mixes. So like you can mix each individual wub, obviously trying to get them balanced both in volume and frequency response, finding, you know, spaces in the mix for each thing. But then once you kind of balance them amongst each other, now take all the wubs, send it to a bus, and now you have a bus that you can bring up and down. There's certain wub sounds that are like peaking or poking through way too loud versus other wub sounds. So like, yeah, I think overall there's some cool evil vibes going on here, but I think your mix is just too congested, too much going on, too loud. Like just everything is just too much. You need to simplify, figure out exactly what the phrasing of the wubs is going to be, and then go through and just delete stuff, like pull things out until you have a much more clear idea. Because right now it just sounds like a bunch of wub samples arranged in some kind of phrase. But yeah, that's what I think. Thanks for sending. I hope that helps. Let's move on. Ice Kayab, I swear this wasn't supposed to be a Minecraft remix, dude. Okay. I don't believe you. Shit. Okay, this is I like the chiptune thing. It's cool. The melody's cool. The bass. There's some moments, like right here specifically. I don't know what's going on in the bass, but there's like some dissonance. It sounds like there's maybe more than one bass, or it's playing the wrong note. There's something going on. Certain moments, there's like this like rumbliness in the sub range that's kind of bothering me. And I can't quite tell. I kind of feel like the chord progression isn't exactly what I think it is. I would go through and really make sure that your bass and your chords are all playing the same notes, same chords, everything's good. There sounds like there's some dissonance happening in it harmonically. So if you have like numerous chords being played at the same time, or maybe the bass isn't playing the root of the chord, it's playing like a harmony of the chord, a harmony of the root of the chord. There's some messiness going on harmonically. I think you have more than one bass playing at the same time. I think that's what's going on. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going. I like that. This has potential, but I think the biggest thing is there's just some dissonance. There's something musically not quite working out right, or maybe the bass synth has like a little pitch envelope and you keep playing the note, so it's constantly doing like a pitch bendy thing. There's something kind of going on in the bottom end mostly, and that you can really hear it. Maybe the kick drum is overlapping, like maybe your side chain isn't getting out of the way of the kick drum enough. There's something going on in the bass, in the bottom end. In the bottom end. There's something going on in the bottom end. Because like if you listen to just the bottom here, I don't know what note that is. If I listen to just the sub range in certain spots, like specifically right here, and I play it, it just kind of sounds like rumblings. So I would go through, do an audit on all the musical stuff, the chords, the bass, make sure they're all jiving, and like mute all your drums, mute everything except the chords and the bass, and make sure they sound amazing together. And then from there, if you have more than one bass, I would ask yourself, why do you have more than one bass? And if it's for a valid reason, like one sounds cool and the other sounds cool in a different way, then pick one to deliver the very bottom end and high pass the other one. Pick one bass to deliver the sub range and get rid of all the sub frequencies from all of your other synths and basses and stuff. I have a video on my channel called Sub Bass Separation or something. It's called, I don't remember what it's called, but it's about sub bass separation. It's on my YouTube. Check it out. It will help. Okay, that's what I think about this one. I think it's cool. I think it just needs a little cleaning up in terms of harmonics. All right, let's move on. We got K. Meyer Voyager. Sounds ass in MP3, but I can't afford Nitro. Okay, let's well, first of all, I mean, since you're already telling us it's an MP3, let's just take a look at the bitrate, because I will shame you if 320. All right, you're good. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, so it's a cool start. Right at that moment, it's just repetitive. You didn't really add any sort of element. There was no evolution. There was no development. So to me, this whole section right here is probably just, you might as well cut it out. Yeah. See, that's cool. You're still, the arpeggio is still arpeggiating. But now we have a recontextualization of the harmony because the bass note moves down to a different note. So this whole section right here, you should cut it and you should go. Oh yeah. And then that should go there. Boom. Okay, let's see what that. This is cool. I like this. I don't know about, is there like a side chain? Is there not much side chain? I don't know. There's something. Some of the bass notes kind of are getting a bit rumbly for me. I think it's like this one right here. I think the bass note and like the arpeggiating like main synth aren't playing the same note, and it's causing some strangeness to happen. So maybe figured that out. I don't know if it's not the end of the world, but it does kind of like it doesn't hit that hard when that note happens because it sounds like there's two fighting notes. I like the simplicity of it, but I think you could probably get a little bit more nuance in there. I think just having like a kick, a hat, and a snare, I think having some sort of atmosphere, maybe like a very subtle shaker or some percussive stuff. I think the beat, I like the simplicity, but it lacks nuance. It's just a little too cut and dry. Like, here's a synth, here's a kick, here's a snare, here's a hat at the end. Like, it needs a little more flavoring, I think. The idea of the track is maybe a little. Can somebody give me a synonym for vague so I don't use it for a third time? I'm not really hearing like a big identity with this track. Like, this part's cool. This has an identity to it, but the fact that it kind of does that for a bit and then just like moves on to something else and then moves on to something else and moves on to something else and moves on to something else. I don't know. It kind of loses its identity a little bit in my mind anyway. it kind of just sounds like a journey into production, as opposed to like a song. Because right here, that little section, that's like the coolest part. That's like the most unique, identifiable section of the song. And it just kind of... Because like everything else in the song is either a chord or an arpeggio. It's not, I'm not really hearing a whole lot of melody. Like there's some, there are melodies in there, but they're not, there's no clear motif, I guess. There's no clear hook. There's nothing that I could hum back to somebody to explain to them what song I'm talking about. Because I can, you know, it's obviously it's harder without words. If I'm like, hey, do you know that song that's like, I'm so fancy, like, you know what I'm talking about. But I could also be like, do you know that song that's like bring ding dong, like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I could say to somebody to explain to them this song. This is the closest it came to having some sort of identifiable feature. That's the coolest part. And if that was referenced maybe a little bit more, or if that idea was developed on further, I think maybe that could be the motif, or that could be the theme of the song. Because I think having a theme is important. I think having like a concept that the rest of the track is built around is a good idea. And to me, that's mostly what this is lacking, is not necessarily production, mixing, none of that stuff. I mean, like, it's pretty good. It's more the music side of things, and you've got some cool shit in here. I like when it switches the note up. And then there is a melody there, but it kind of doesn't, it just kind of seems like the melody happens and then it's not there anymore, you know? But yeah, anyway, that's what I think. I think that section is really cool, and don't be afraid to, like, to me, it sounds like every single drop section is totally unique. They're all different styles, and that's not necessarily a problem, but I just, when I listen to the song, it just kind of happens, and then I don't know how to explain it to somebody, and that is the litmus test for that sort of thing. I don't even know if that's the right word. Anyway, that's what I think. Thank you for sending. I hope that helps. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Coder B5, Dance Alone featuring Ariana Celiano, John Cena.
I can feel your heartbeat. You're pulling me close. Your touch is a light ray that can never fade or ghost. I don't know what happened. Why did you step aside? I thought we both want to dance, but now I have to say goodbye. Seeing you leaving the dance floor, it hurt by your side, but I can assume I'll be in all night. The way I move makes me feel alive, and the way I am, I'm never gonna hide. And the way I love made you feel so high, that you.
Okay, so this is, I like the melody, I like her voice and the performance. It's all good. The mix is kind of off. The vocals are a bit dull.
The way I move makes me feel alive, and the way I am, I'm never gonna hide. And the way I love made you feel so high, that you thought that if you leave, then I'll be glad. I'm begging you to leave. You will never have whatever you did. You cannot find another me. I'm
Yeah, maybe a curve like this on the vocals, something similar. I'm feeling like there's a lot of her fundamental chest kind of frequency, but there's not a whole lot of air. There's not a lot of like presence in the mix. The vocal kind of feels like it's just like kind of like submersed in the mix a little bit too much.
You cannot find another me. I'm begging you to leave. You're
I also wonder if
I'll be
I think if I were making this track when it got to this section, I'd like strip it way back. You have like probably like 5 elements when you kind of maybe only need maybe to start with the drums, the bass and the vocal, and then bring in some stuff, you know, to taste like, but right off the bat, when you drop into like a chorus section like this, it's got the vocals, it's got, there's bass, it sounds like maybe like a pad or a synth. It might just be an extension of the bass. There's kind of like a plucky mallet sound. There's something that kind of sounds like a guitar. There's like maybe like an arpeggio thing. And then there's the vocals. It's just like so much stuff. It's overwhelming. I bet you if you built this up like this and then dropped with just like very simple drums, very simple bass and vocals, it's going to be so much better. It's going to be like, oh, it's going to feel so good. And then you can bring that stuff in. You know, if you get to a halfway through this section and you're like, oh, it feels like it's dragging, we'll bring in like a little rhythmic thing or bring in one of your arpeggios or something. But typically when you drop, you kind of want to introduce everything one at a time. Obviously, there's lots of exceptions to that, but overloading us with a bunch of new elements all at the same time, it's like it's too busy and our ears don't know what to focus on. So like drums, bass, and vocals. Drop with just that and see what it sounds like. I'd probably chill out on the reverb on our vocals too.
feel my body. I think I am finally free. I don't know what happened. Why did I step aside? I don't want to do this tonight. It's time for me to say goodbye. Seeing you leaving the dance floor with her by your side made me wanna dance alone all night.
There's a few weird notes in here.
Made me wanna,
Da, da.
made me wanna dance alone all night.
I feel like there's a wrong note. Da, what note is it? Hold on a sec. I can remember how to pull up a fucking set. That's kind
Dance alone all night.
yeah. I think you're hitting an F at some point in that little vocal run. It's hitting.
Dance alone all night.
It's like a fleeting little F. It's like just a little grace note, but it's in there and it sounds wrong to me. I think if you were using Melodyne or however you're tuning the vocals, I would look into that because it sounds like there's an F and there shouldn't be. Okay, moving on.
The way I move makes me feel alive. And the way I am, I'm never gonna hide.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, but that's just it. There's a lot of cool stuff. It's too much cool stuff. Simplify, simplify, simplify. I think that's my note for this track is you need to simplify.
When I find another me, I'm begging you to.
I think the arrangement could be a little bit better too, but I really think if you drop with just the very simple drums, bass, and vocals, it's going to give you tons of ideas. I feel like everybody does this a little bit and they layer stuff out of insecurity. They're like, well, I don't know how good this individual element sounds, so I'm going to add another element to hopefully, you know, help it sound good. And yeah, I might as well add another one, you know, because I don't know if those two sound good enough on their own. But you got to be confident in your sounds, and you got to. I would honestly drop with bass, drums, and vocals. Okay, cool. That's my idea for that one. Let's move on. Meta Archeon, Moonsoon Heart. Okay. Okay, musically, this is dope. The drums I don't love. I like the drum and bass direction. I think the drums just aren't quite right. The kick drum is almost like a house kick drum. It's like quite long and deep. And because if you look at kind of how loud, how can I show this? Maybe waterfall. So if you look, like the kick drums are really just chilling by themselves. There's not a whole lot else happening in that frequency range. So they just kind of stick out because they're like this big thump and then there's not really anything else. It's called Blue Cat's Frequency Analyst Pro. Like the contrast is too much. Yeah, I think like a kind of a more drum and bass and the snare, it kind of sounds like it's trying to be like a Jack U like 2012 kind of snare or whatever year they did their thing. Where I would probably have more like what would be a good folder for this stuff? No. 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 Yeah, like this maybe. Like this track, this style of music, it's kind of like liquid drum and bass, I guess. It's not about having like massive kick drums, you know? It's not about having like big thundering kicks. It's more about like the groove and the vibe of it. So I think having this big chunky kick drum just doesn't quite fit the vibe. I don't even know how I could possibly do this. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but let's do this. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the right one. And then like the same with the snare. The snare doesn't sound like it's appropriate for the style of music. Like no. Layer. What's the tempo? But yes, I do agree with that. Is it 170, 174, 170? All right, let's go to 170. And I'll just take your sections that don't have drums. And then we can just play with some drum samples. No. DMB. I don't know. Oops, right, drum and bass, forgot. Like these aren't the right drums, but I think they're a little closer, at least in like the style. It's almost like listen to some liquid drum and bass and then kind of channel those sounds. Like the last thing I'll do is just, do I have like, sure, let's try this loop. What are we at, 172? Oh, I fucked that up. There we go. Okay. You know what I mean? Like that. Anyway, that is what I think. I think like the vibe is super cool, but the drums just don't fit. The hi-hats might be okay. I think it's just the kick and the snare. Yeah, I think arrangement wise, it's a little too slow paced. Like there's not a lot of developments happening. I feel like this style of music, it can kind of roll for a while and it doesn't need to make big changes, but there's usually lots of like ear candy, atmospheric stuff that keeps your attention. And this kind of doesn't have that. It's a little too simplistic. Yeah, this is cool. I mean, like melodically, musically, it's solid. I think it's the production that needs the most work. I think your sub bass is quite loud compared to everything else. But yeah, I would I'd pick up I'd listen to some Liquid drum and bass, take some cues, take some inspiration from that, and try some different drums. These drums just don't fit. And I think that and the fact that the arrangement is just kind of lingering around a bit too much. Those are my two big notes for this one. Thank you for sending. Let's move on. What? There's another one? Okay, another one, and Multi Fox and featuring Kaido Fox energy drink version 2. So in this moment, there's kind of not enough like melodic, like it just kind of is like a dirty sub bass with a da 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 and drums, and that's not really holding my attention so far. Okay, so it's cool. I like the riff, but I find that when the sub bass hits, the riff I can't hear anymore. Like anytime the bass is there, the riff just gets drowned out. I would probably I would try to get the guitar riff more in my face, and I'd probably try to have it extend lower in the frequency range. You could even maybe try to duplicate the layer and put it down an octave and like fade it up into the mix until it sounds right, it might sound cool to have like a octave down of the guitar riff going. My next thing is it sounds like they played the riff once and then used something to make it stereo when it should be two separate recordings of the same riff and then panned hard left and right. So my next note is that if you listen to like how, especially during the guitar solo section, how like aggressive it is, and then you listen to the drums, it's not the same vibe. Like the hi-hat, or it's like a shaker, it's like really kind of chill. And it might make sense during like some of these tighter sections, but like I want you to picture a band on stage and they're playing this song and somebody's whipping out a fucking nasty guitar solo and the drummer's just going like on the hi-hat. There's definitely some cool shit happening, and I really do like the guitar riff. I do think it would be better if it was recorded twice and panned hard. That's pretty standard practice for like rock guitar stuff. All right, I'm going to give you a good reference for this. Rocket Scientist by the Teddy Bears. I think this is a good reference for you. Let's see. Rocket Scientist. Oh, don't tell me it's not on. Oh, Teddy Bears. Dude, it's not on. I mean, honestly, probably like anything but from the Teddy Bears, but why is Rocket Scientist not? Son of a bitch. It's not on here. I'd have to go on YouTube. Anyway, yeah, I would check out, first of all, any Teddy Bears track is going to be a good reference, but specifically Rocket Scientist, I think is going to give you some ideas. There's definitely some cool stuff happening here. To me, it's the tricky part with this stuff is right now it kind of feels like somebody made a beat and then somebody sent them a guitar riff and they put it on the beat. It doesn't necessarily sound integrated properly. It doesn't sound like it was part of the same universe or like part of the same recording session. You know, like it doesn't sound like it sounds transplanted. And the challenging thing is going to make it sound like it's part of it. But yeah, I think it's off to a good start. So check out that track for a reference and try to get the guitars to be a bit more ballsy, because the rest of the track, like that sub bass is like really like deep and big, right? But the guitar is it's doing cool things, but it's not being well represented in the mix, in my opinion. Okay, cool. Those are my thoughts. Let's check out Zephyrinth, Underwater, Fuck Life My. I like this. This is cool. I think at the start, this 25 seconds, I would have a bit more bottom end, like more bass happening. It doesn't have to be full sub bass or anything, but I just kind of feel like we listen to like 30 seconds of high pass. Because even that low note, there's not a lot of low frequencies in there. Like, it sounds like it's very high passed. And I don't know. I don't know why it would be. Why don't we get like a full picture of this chord that you're playing? Why don't we get the bottom end? I don't think it needs to be out of there. And then especially when the drums hit, there's like very little sub bass happening. I think that's the biggest thing so far is this track is just, oh my God. Okay, let me close all this shit. Hold on. You're welcome. Thank you for submitting. Oops. Okay, we go back here, and then we open this, and then I go here, and then I go like this. It almost sounds like it's playing the D sharp, which I kind of like, but I think that's also just trailing over from the previous chord. You know what I mean? Like it needs to have some sub bass in between, especially because you have this kick that has sub bass in it. Alt F12 closes all plugin windows. Oh, cool! I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. Anyway, yeah, you've got like the sub range has the kick has the sub range in it, but between each individual kick, there's not a whole lot going on down there. There's just kind of like little bits of chords sometimes going down into the lower frequencies. So I would definitely experiment with some sub bass action. Also, I think this style of track, let me do this. This style of track would lend itself well to like this kind of effect. I'll show you. We'll have a little bit of that. I'll do it like too much so you hear what I'm doing. You know, like it's kind of got a bit of a vaporwave kind of style to it. So I would embrace that a little bit. Get a bit lo-fi, put some wow and flutter on it. I'd also probably have a little bit more top drum, you know, percussive drum loop kind of stuff going on. It's a bit barren in the top end. What's up, Big Rig? That's a new one for me. Because like what you've got here is a very slow track, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be mindful of the pacing. The pacing is like, it's just a little too slow. You've already kind of got the tempo against you in terms of like feeling like it's dragging on. So you have to do things like add percussion, add ear candy, add atmosphere. You have to keep us engaged in the track even though it's moving at 2 miles an hour, right? Nobody wants to hear knock sensor noises. Engines sound terrible through a knock sensor. Believe me, I know all about it. Yeah, okay. Those are my thoughts. I think that this track is cool. It's channeling a bit of that Donkey Kong underwater vibe, which is maybe why it's called Underwater. But yeah, those are my thoughts. All right, let's move on. Thank you for sending. We're gonna check out Tact Kawaii Core. I don't know how to say that. Okay, so the biggest thing that I'm hearing with this is that like your chords are way louder than everything else. I'd bring the chords down so that the other elements could like shine. Yeah, so like I think that's my biggest thing is that there's lots of cool stuff happening, but you've just got this like wall of fucking noise. Like the chord is just so overbearing. I would chill out on the chords and let the other stuff. This is what Nick's brain is like most days. But I like it. I like the track. And you would be terrified if you knew what was going on in my head. I'm terrified every day. Kate loved your word from president. That's not how she married me. Interesting. Okay. I think the biggest thing with this is just your chords. Like if you look at this fullness, this loudness, that's chords. We're looking at the chords. Turn them down. Take them out of some sections. It always amazes me the power of the delete button. Sometimes you're like, I don't know what this is missing. You're like, no, dude, it's not missing anything. It needs to have more stuff missing. So go through, experiment with some sections, take out the chords, see what it sounds like. But at the very least, turn them down a bit. Turn the chords down a bit at the end. All right, that was that one. Let's check out Reest Blast.
Turn this bitch into some shit that make you
High hope. High hope. I have low hope most days, but high, hello, hope. Okay, so I think this is sick. I like this beat. I think what it's missing again is not what it's missing, but what it's not missing. I think that there's almost too much atmosphere. I think going through and like there's kind of like a lot of reverb trailing off of some of like the chord hits and stuff. And if you could like cut them short and have more kind of silence or like little absence of sound in some of these beats, it would kind of give it more of like that ninja kind of clunky vibe.
I'll get up and turn this bitch into some shit that makes.
Because there's kind of, if you listen, I think the reverb is really long off of like the chord hits. So there's always kind of like this noise floor of like almost white noise sounding underneath of everything. So if you could like modulate that a bit, so like maybe have some hits, have it sound like it's gonna trail out long, but then cut it short and have ding kong kong bong. Like that shit would be more king kong kong kong. It would sound more like something falling down the stairs. Because the other stuff is kind of smoothing it all out by having like this like blur underneath of it, right? It doesn't mean that you can't have some of the hits. That's part of the cool thing that you can do. You can have really long reverb hits and then just cut them off tight in certain sections to emphasize certain sections and make it sound extra dry. I think that would complement this style of music. I think your hats are a little loud too. They're like all the way up. Especially during this. It might be okay during the beat, but during this section, the hats are like the loudest thing in the track right now. I also think that your vocals they should be way more up front. They're super cool and chopped up and like they add a lot of attitude, but they're kind of like mixed as if they are a background element in them. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff in this. It's a super cool beat. I think playing with like the muting of stuff and having a bit more empty space is going to help a lot. Bringing the vocals up is going to help a lot. And in terms of like the arrangement overall, I feel like you're not getting me super excited for the drops. Like this section is cool. This is a good build, but we kind of just chilled out for like a full 45 seconds before that happened. And I couldn't tell what was going to happen. Like it wasn't leading me by the hand. I just kind of felt like I was standing in an empty room waiting for something to happen in terms of the arrangement. So like I'd get your drops on point and then I would try to build up to them a bit better. A bit longer of a build to get us hyped up so that when it finally hits, we're like ready to, you know. But yeah, those are my thoughts. It's a very cool track. Thank you for sending. Cat's Pajamas by Sayrin, Emo Nova, Emo Trebek, and Fehu. How many fucking musicians does it take to screw in a light bulb? Who knows? Let's have a listen. Damn, this reminds me of a game called Kablooey for the Super Nintendo. I could almost hear there's like a female like what's it called? Not a spectator, an announcer, and she's like, "Player 1, get ready." Wow. That was insane. In terms of production, it's obviously very fucking cool. It was a journey. There was a lot of things happening all the time, and that's cool. What it kind of, the only critique I would have, I think, is that it sounds like a demo reel for a sample pack. It sounds like you are trying to display every sound. And what I think it's lacking is a theme, something that makes me feel like I'm listening to one song that you know, it doesn't mean it can't go off into different directions, but it kind of has like an orbit around this theme. You know, you have like a melody that it keeps returning to, or a chord progression that it keeps returning to, or a rhythmic signature, that something that it returns to touch base and say, hey, just letting you know this is still the same song. Now watch me fuck off. You know, like, I think that's what it's missing. Is it just sounds to me like a big production masturbation. And as a producer, I enjoyed listening to all of those crazy sounds. I don't necessarily know that it made me feel a specific emotion, you know? I think that it appealed to my brain, but not necessarily my heart. And that sounds cheesy as fuck, but it's that kind of demonstrates my point. I think that somebody, it could be fine as is, as like a big crazy production showcase, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me. It doesn't necessarily sound like a song. It doesn't sound like it's conveying an idea. It sounds like it's conveying sounds and interesting sounds and production stuff. But if you could go through and just kind of, you know, grab all these crazy extraneous parts and just tie them to something, tie them to a melodic theme, tie them to a chord progression, tie them to something, and revisit that every once in a while, orbit around, go explore all these different crazy sounds and production techniques and IDM stuff, but anchor it in something that I can kind of relate to emotionally. I think that would improve the value of the song. But it's obviously insane in terms of the production. It sounds like my brain on the daily. I just think if you could anchor it in some sort of emotional theme, I think that would go a long ways. And my first thought would be to probably have some sort of melodic. I think the song Schlappy by AU5 and I think Mr. Bill, I think that could be a good reference for this, because it kind of goes weird and wacky all the time, but it kind of feels like it's still existing in a space, you know? But yeah, that's what I think. I think it's insane. You guys are fucking crazy, and just try to tie it together a little better. I think that's my main note. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Horu Ferrari. Why'd I say Ferrari twice? Gatorade.
Cause I really need somebody. I wish we could be together. Cause I really need somebody. I'm tired of rolling alone on the floor. I feel like I'm drowning. I need someone to come here and pick me up and drag me out this fucking body. Mirror, mirror on the wall, why don't you hear the call? Somebody save me. I had much better days, I need a saving grace. I wish I could write a letter, cause I really need somebody. I wish we could be together, cause I really need somebody. I'm tired of rolling alone on the floor.
Yeah, you can DM it to me, I guess. I'd prefer it just in the whatever. I don't really. Yeah, I don't know what you're afraid of. But I respect that you aren't comfortable with putting it in there. So if you want to DM me it, it's fine. Okay, so I think this is cool. Where's the vocal from, or what? Explain to me, I guess, what this track is. Is it like a remix? Is it a splice vocal? Is it your vocal? Where'd the vocal come from? In terms of like vibe, melody, chords, harmony, everything sounds good. I think my main note would be that the drum beat feels kind of distant. It's not very, like, if we ignore like the 808s.
I'm tired of roaming alone on the floor. I feel like I'm drowning.
The snare or the snare clap or whatever, it's like it just sounds like it's out. I don't know. It's not very present in the mix. It's very reverbed. It's very back in the cymatics vocal, different format vocals. Okay, cool. Yeah, the snare I think just sounds too far back. Just the beat in general feels too far back in the mix, both in terms of volume, but also just kind of the amount of reverb on it. And I know you're kind of going for like a smooth, you know, liquidy vibe, but I don't think that it needs that much reverb, and I think it could be a bit more in my face. I think that if the beat was a bit more in my face, I'd get into it more. I'd get into the groove more, especially considering the beat is kind of sparse.
I'm tired of roaming alone on the floor. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Why don't
See, like, the hats are a little closer to the volume that I would want the beat to be at, but the snare just still feels like very buried, like underneath.
why don't you hear the
Also, oh God, I'm sorry. I know this is your first time submitting, but I'm gonna have to do it. What? It's a 320? I don't believe you that this is did you,
why don't you hear the
how is it cut off so perfectly at 15 kilohertz? Did you cut off at 15 kilohertz in your master bus? Why is it like, look at, this looks like a 192 MP3 that you converted to a 320 or something. There's something going on with the fact that the high end
why don't you hear the call?
has a fucking brick wall at 15K. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that also might explain some of the dullness, I guess, to the beat.
I'm tired of roaming alone on the floor. I feel like I'm drowning.
My next note is that it's very cool. The beat is very cool. The music's very cool. The atmosphere, everything's cool. Why not find a vocalist and work with a vocalist and just go all the way, you know? I'm not saying that you can't do good things with like sample pack vocals, but like any track you write and you put a sample pack vocal on would just be way more betterer with an actual vocalist that you like sit down and write the song, or you send to, maybe they write the song, or maybe a lot of vocalists have like a bunch of acapellas that they just write to chord progressions, they write a melody, they write a chorus or whatever. Like try to collab with somebody and that way you can have like a full on, because like no matter what, when somebody asks you where the vocals come from, nobody's ever proud to say cymatics or splice. They're always like, it's just a splice. It's just a splice vocal, or it's just a cymatics vocal, right? And I think that this track is good enough and it warrants like a vocal list. So go outside, grab a vocalist, pull them in, and they'll sing. That's what they do. That's why they're called vocalists. Okay, let's keep going.
Somebody save me. I had much better days. I need
Like I think what the cymatics vocals are good for is inspiration, getting love the vocal, but it was short, so I tried to modify it to use it on the track. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that you're almost always better to work with a real vocalist, even if they're not as good of a vocalist, even if the recording doesn't sound as good. Like, it's more authentic. They can write to the track. You can create something new that nobody else has and bring something new into the universe, as opposed to using something that everybody has access to. Again, if you're certain styles of music, if you're just taking like a vocal and you're cutting it up and you're using it kind of as like a cool thing, that's fine. But this track sounds like it should have lyrics. And I would rather hear lyrics that were written specifically for the song, specifically for the track. And anyway, those are my 2 cents. I think technically speaking, the track is cool. The drums are a bit distant. That's all I feel about that. I don't understand why this big dip at 15, like this brick wall at 15 kilohertz. that seems to me like you rendered it out as a low quality MP3 and then up converted it. But obviously you can't replace data that's missing. But yeah, that's what I think. I think it's a cool vibe. Keep going and maybe try to steal a vocalist for it. All right, let's move on. Ne'er Do Well, Mystical Melancholy or Melancholy. I don't know how to say that. Let's go.
Prepare yourself, for this is not just hell. This is your melancholy. Welcome to the abyss, where the very fabric of reality bends to my will. It will haunt your soul for eternity. Prepare yourself, for this is not just hell. This is mystical.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's dig in.
Prepare yourself, for this is not just... Welcome to the abyss.
Okay, I think what this is missing is like some top drum percussive stuff, you know, and I could get behind dropping without it. Just drop like that. But like, let's figure out what tempo it is. Is it like 100 or something? Let's go. Let's try 100 or 90 or something. I don't fucking know. How am I supposed to know? 112? No. 105. No, I'm totally wrong. Oh, there's the second kick. That's why. Oh my God, this shit is slow. 70. Oh, it's 140. Halftime. Okay. Okay. Now let's just turn it down a little bit. Oh, fuck's sakes. My mouse skills are not there today or ever. And let's just like, I don't know. Let's just grab like a... This is not the sound. This is not the right loop, but I'm going to make it the right loop. You know, like just like, I think that's what it's kind of missing from, especially leading up to the drop, like having something to kind of give us like an idea of the rhythm.
To the abyss, where the very fabric of reality bends to my will. It will haunt your soul for eternity. Prepare yourself, for this is not just...
And then, like I said, it would be cool if it dropped without any drum or without any top drum. But then like even just like a hi-hat on the upbeat, maybe here as a pickup. So like throw some hi-hats in. I'm just fucking around, but you get the idea. I think it's a bit too simplistic, and I think the intro just kind of drags on a little bit. Even just a little like shaker or weird glitchy rhythmic sound to kind of get us a little like pre-head bob, get us ready to start like head banging. I think a good head bang starts with a good head bob. I think a good bang starts with a good head bob. I don't know. There's something there. Anyway, I think that...
Welcome to the abyss.
Yeah, I think giving us a little bit more rhythm, because where it's like 70 beats per minute and it's really kind of clunky, giving us a little bit of rhythmic information between the kicks is going to help a lot. And then obviously keep writing the track. It's a short idea. It's cool. It's evil. It scares me a little bit. And I hope that helps. All right. Can Joy X riff. Here we go. I would try high passing those percussion sounds because there's kind of like some really low frequency stuff in there. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I would try high passing it maybe at just like 100 hertz or something because there's kind of like some sub frequency in a few of those like percussive hits. I think it's specifically this one right here. So I think that going, well, I'm going to assume, well, 1:30, we don't really have much of a melody to speak of here. There's cool chords, there's cool atmosphere, there's a cool beat, but I feel like we're missing like the main character of the song where a vocal would typically exist. And that's not to say that this needs to have vocals, but it kind of feels like it's missing like the main character up until this point anyway. Okay, so I like where this is going. I like this drop. I feel like the drums are buried. It's like that there's some sounds that are really, really loud, and I feel like these drums should be right in my face. I think you should sidechain them more aggressively, sidechain the other stuff to the drums more aggressively, and I think you should sidechain to the snare as well. At least try it and see what it sounds like. But just overall, the drums are weak compared to how loud like that wall of sound that's happening, like this here. To me, the track just sounds like it's all wall of sound and there's a drum beat underneath of that. And I think the drums should really be driving that sound and not the other way around. And then at this section, like you can't just do that for that long. There's a cool melody, like that thing is in there and it's cool, but you can't just do that for 16 bars. Like you got to bring something else in. There's got to be a counter melody. You got to switch it up. This copy and paste of the two, and maybe there's some slight difference that I'm not necessarily picking up on, but for all intents and purposes, this section right here is the same as this section right here. And that's just going too long without giving us new information, something new to think about, to digest with our brains. But I like the da-da-da-da, like the melody. It's a cool motif and a cool hook. And maybe you can figure out a way of introducing that earlier on in the track so that it is the melody, because like, you shouldn't bring a new melody, a very important melody. Generally speaking, you shouldn't bring it in a minute and a half into the track. You almost should start with it, I guess it's kind of there. It sounds stretched. Yeah, it's hinted at. It's hinted at, but I think you could just straight up do it. The da-da-da-da-da, you could just have that like in the track leading up to it, so we don't have to wait as long to hear it. Strange human type. I'm not familiar with that, so I'm not really sure what that means. This build felt it didn't feel quite right to me. I think it's mostly the snare. It's so like I don't know. I feel like this build could be better. I don't love the sound of that snare. Wow, somebody just started playing a game and it was 30 isopods in a trench coat. That was their Steam name. Anyway, yeah, I think overall this is a very cool vibe. I think the drums should be much more present in the mix, even to the point where you're side chaining to the kick and snare, and you're doing it a bit more like obviously. I think you do have some side chain in there, but I don't think it's enough. I think that the drums should really punch me a bit harder, and try to. The pacing is just a little slow. It just kind of it's moving along really slow. And again, that's not necessarily the fault of the tempo, but when you have a low tempo like this, it requires more work to make the pacing not feel like it's dragging on. And that could be anything from percussive stuff in the background, more variances throughout the builds, maybe some ear candy stuff, more things happening, just to give the listener a bit more to chew on while they're, trudging through the low tempo. Yeah, it's a cool track. Thanks for sending. All right, let's check out the last one for today. Coalescence Blue 2. This is a very cool idea. A couple things that stuck out to me. I said a couple things. I only had one thing in mind, so I hope that another thing comes to mind before I'm finished this sentence. The first of the two things that I've thought of is that the drums are totally mono and very simple. The crazy time stretch sound is like super wide, and that's cool. And the drums can be anchored in the center. That's cool too. But they're just 100% mono. Like all of the drums are just like right down the center. So I think adding some nuance to the drums, whether that's like a shaker loop or some sort of cool percussive thing that has some width to it, will connect the super wide sounds to the super mono sounds. Because to me, you have two sounds. You have super duper wide glitchy sound chord thing, and then you have super duper mono drum thing, and there's not really anything connecting the two together, so they feel very disconnected. So I think if you could add some drum layers that kind of expand it into the stereo field a little bit, that would help connect the two kind of extremes. Shit. And then obviously there might be something coming in here, but like I feel like you're gonna have to switch it up a little bit more often because it's cool. It's a cool vibe. It's a cool beat, but like it just kind of lingers a little bit too long. And then it kind of doesn't have a melody. Like I feel like it should have some sort of melody or hook or something at some point, right? I think this is a very cool start though. I think that if you start embellishing with a bit more drums that push out into the stereo field, that's going to help a lot. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to have to come up with some sort of melody or hook, and that could be challenging, but I think you need it. And then you're going to have to like break down, and then you're going to have to create a whole arrangement for this. But as of right now, this is a fucking cool idea, and it's a good start. And I think that's all I have to say. Progression, really sick idea. Yeah, I mean, like it sounds like it's very early on in the writing stages, but I think you should prioritize coming up with some sort of hook or melody or riff or theme, something that really boils this track down, the idea down. It could be a vocal. It would be great if it was a vocal. That would be sick if you could carve out, you know, a bit more smooth sections for the vocals, and then you build it up and you do this like choppy shit, and maybe you could chop up the vocal with it. That could be cool too. But yeah, it's a good start. It is a good start. Okay, this is me. Hi, hello. I hope that you guys have a good weekend. I really have to pee. That's why I'm talking a million miles an hour. I love you all. Thank you for hanging out. And if you know anybody that wants to have a second or third or 20 sets of ears on their tracks and get some advice, let them know. Send them over. I don't do a very good job promoting this. I just kind of do it every Friday, and I appreciate everybody that hangs out. Okay, I love you. Bye. That's the wrong thing. This is the right one. There we go. Yes, send your shit and I'll check it out next week. Okay, bye.